Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Beth Espey.
Well, first to my good evening. It's 5:30. This is Update on Friday, the 6th of October. Over the next half hour, we'll bring you a roundup of what's been happening on the Isle of Man today, the latest business and sports news, traffic reports, and the all-important weather forecast for the weekend. Coming up tonight, the death of a Douglas man who was found just yards from the sheltered housing complex where he lived has been ruled an accident. Parents on the island urge police and government to do more to protect their children from drugs. The Nautilus Union has been taken aback by its members' feeling. Do you struggle getting a doctor's appointment? Nearly 1,000 GP appointments were missed in July and August. And we'll hear what a group of cadets will be doing this weekend to fundraise.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
5:31, Christian Jones has the latest headlines.
The death of a Douglas man who was found under a bridge just yards from the sheltered housing complex where he lived has been ruled an accident. Joseph Bernard Rice's body was recovered on the 22nd of January. He'd been missing for 4 days. His inquest was concluded at Douglas Courthouse today. Manx Care says no-shows remain a serious issue, particularly in a time when surgeries are under pressure and waiting lists are often long. The health service revealed close to 1,000 appointments were missed at GB surgeries across the island during July and August. And there are worries keeping steam packet workers on the Manxman as part of proposed new conditions to their employment will affect the local economy and disband communities. The union claims they've been threatened with fire and rehire, something the company denies. In international news, a 36-year-old man's been remanded in custody after appearing in court charged with an alleged plot to kidnap and murder TV presenter Holly Willoughby. Gavin Plum, a shopping centre security guard from Harlow in Essex, is due before Chelmsford Crown Court next month. Lady Cathy Ferguson, the wife of former Manchester United manager Sir Alex Ferguson, has died at the age of 84. The club has offered its heartfelt condolences to Sir Alex and his family. And sport, Ollie Watkins has signed a new long-term contract with Aston Villa. The striker, who received a recall to the England squad this week, has scored 50 goals since arriving from the Premier League rivals Brentford in 2020. Those are the Update News headlines, next at 6.
Man Benham. Contact us by phone, video call, email or face-to-face. We're happy to connect with you. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Thank you, Christian. Overcast with occasional outbreaks of rain or drizzle. This may become a longer spell of rain later this evening and into the early hours before being dry at the end of the night if you fancy going out then. Fresh southwest winds and a minimum temperature of 14 Celsius. Largely cloudy and dry tomorrow. Some brightness breaking through at times and temperatures of around 18 again. Sunset this evening 6:44. Sunrise tomorrow morning 7:30.
Visit the Manx Glass and Glazing website and see a range of products from windows to doors, mirrors to splashbacks. manxglass.com.
You're listening to Update. It is 5:33. The death of a Douglas man who was found under a hedge just yards from the sheltered housing complex where he lived has been ruled an accident. Joseph Bernard Rice's body was recovered near to Ballinard Court on the 22nd of January. The 78-year-old had died from hypothermia. His inquest concluded at Douglas Courthouse today. Tessa Hawley was there for Manx Radio and has this report, which contains information some listeners may find upsetting.
Police started searching for him on the 20th of January after being contacted by Mr Rice's family, who were concerned that the warden at the complex couldn't locate him. The court was told she'd attempted to conduct a daily welfare check the previous morning, but her efforts to reach Mr Rice over the telephone or in person were unsuccessful. Repeated efforts the next day were also without success. It was noted in court that 33 hours had passed between it being recorded that Mr Rice wasn't at home and an official search starting. Officers conducted house-to-house inquiries along Ballinard Road, searching the properties and gardens. The Search and Rescue Dog Association was also called in, with search dog Ruby tasked with trying to find Mr. Rice. Initial efforts, however, were unsuccessful. At 8:30 on the evening of the 20th of January, 2 police officers searched the garden of 67 Ballinard Road, the property directly opposite Mr. Rice's home. They found nothing. 2 days later, the SARDA team returned to Ballinard Court and began a fresh search. Shortly afterwards, Ruby helped locate Mr. Rice, who was lying behind a wall underneath a hedge of trees in the garden of 67 Ballinard Road. Coroner of Inquest James Brooks said he believed Mr. Rice had left home and died in the early hours of the 19th of January after calling his son. Why he ended up in the hedge is perhaps something that may never be answered, he said, adding, in what was a very dark garden, Joe had simply become lost. Recording a verdict of accidental death, Coroner Brooks said Mr. Rice's death was entirely unintentional.
Tessa Hawley reporting. There are worries keeping steam packet workers on the Manxman as part of proposed new conditions to their employment will affect the local economy and disband communities. Maritime trade union Nautilus has spent the past week on the island meeting members to gauge their feelings amid an ongoing dispute. Senior national organiser Gary Elliott says he was taken aback by the strength of feeling amongst members.
It's always a strange one, isn't it? Because an employer and an owner will say the biggest asset that they have is their employees. So if that's the case, how do you reward your employees? You give them good terms and conditions of employment. The Isle of Man steam packet do have good terms and conditions. It's not by a fluke. It's because of collective bargaining.
Well, the crux of the SPC's argument is that they want to improve reliability. What do you make of that?
No, it's inaccurate. Some of the actions that it will encounter, allowing people only a couple of hours proper rest as we see it, good rest, is dangerous. They're concerned about that for themselves. They're concerned about that for the public.
If the steam packet know that industrial action is on the cards here, having a union that could take its workers on strike and disrupt services, that doesn't seem like it goes a long way to fulfilling that reliability promise.
And I think this is why we've tried to keep consultation, negotiation open, because we've said to the owners that why would you want to dispute? Why are you heading sleepwalking into a dispute? I've said previously, it's very much a last resort. I mean, I think someone made the statement that we're looking for industrial action. Let me just say to them people that Nautilus International has took one industrial action strike in 22 years. Does that sound like a union that every 6 months is out on strike? No. We don't want ships tied up. It's a lifeline service. But we've got a managing director that seems to be hell-bent on walking into that.
And you can find out more on this story and the Steam Packet's view at manxradio.com.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
It's 5:38. Parents on the Isle of Man are urging police and the government to do more to stop their children from becoming embroiled in drug gangs. This mother's 16-year-old has been arrested numerous times for possession of illegal substances. She's asked us to remain anonymous, but told us things need to change.
There seems to be an obsession at the moment amongst teens. They seem to think it's cool to go out on the weekend to be sniffing cocaine and ketamine and smoking cannabis. And then, they'll sell for people so that they've got cash to either buy more drugs or to buy expensive clothing. And I think until parents and the public fully take on board the reality and the scale of the issue, then I don't think anything's going to change. Having a son who smokes cannabis and has been arrested on multiple occasions for possession with intent, it's really worn me down. I feel like as a mum, I've completely failed him. And although he wasn't in my care on the occasions he was arrested, I still feel like I should have done more to prevent him from being sucked into the kind of lifestyle that he has. At the moment, he's actually in juvenile prison for drug offences. And I'm worried that once he gets out, not only will he obviously have a massive drug debt that could come back to him, but will he basically go on to reoffend? Will he end up addicted to harder drugs? Will he end up in hospital or worse? My eldest son is 16 and he's been under the care of the Department of Social Care since 2020. And since going into one of the department's care homes, his behaviour has actually escalated drastically and he was in and out of court monthly for various criminal offences. Unfortunately, the court system don't really give consequences. They'll give them probation most of the time. And so I don't think these teenagers, my son especially, don't ever learn from the mistakes. I mean, I think we need to have more education sessions, both within primary and secondary schools, about exploitation and drugs and the dangers around it. Also, the dangers of social media really need to be highlighted in more depth, and it needs to start at primary school level. And I think also the police need to be doing more with the intelligence they're given.
You can find the full story on this and the government response at manxradio.com. It's 5:40. Nearly 1,000 appointments at GP surgeries around the Isle of Man were missed during July and August. The problem of people not attending appointments remains a serious issue, especially at a time when surgeries are under pressure and waiting times to get an appointment are often long. Christian has the details.
A total of 944 appointments were missed during the 2 months under review. They're referred to as did not attend, and in all cases mean that a precious slot to see a doctor that could have been filled by somebody else is wasted. As an example, there were 146 missed appointments in July alone at the Snaefell surgery, representing 14.7% of the appointments booked. Other surgeries were close behind, with the Southern, Peel and the Laxey and Onken combined surgeries recording over 100 no-shows each in one of the 2 months. The surgery with the lowest percentage of missed appointments was the Palatone practice in Douglas. Looking at the period April to August, the Snaefell surgery topped the table of no-shows with 7.9%. Manx Care is urging people to cancel appointments they are unable to attend. Further information is available at manxcare.im.
Sea-Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
Well, the Manxman is on its way back from Heysham, due in Douglas at around 6 p.m. The Manannan left Liverpool at around 5:05, expected to get back at just after 8:35 this evening. The Ben McCree will then head back out to Heysham at 8:15 p.m, getting there about midnight and leaving again for Douglas at 2:15 a.m. And tomorrow, everything running to schedule. Manxman to Heysham at 8:45, coming back at 2:15 p.m, and the Manannan going to Liverpool at 10 a.m. and back at 7:15 tomorrow evening.
Follow the Steam Packet on Twitter for the latest sailing information.
It's 5:42. Changes designed to clarify the role of a committee that oversees the work of the Health Department have been published. Amendments to the Health Services Consultative Committee's role are due to be laid before Tynwald in a couple of weeks. Sean Cowper has more.
A new requirement will mean the committee will make site visits to premises within the island's health and social care network, as well as producing reports on these visits for the department and Manx Care. The updated rules also remove the need for the committee to produce a report to Tynwald, with a report instead being published on the DHSC's website. The report on the amended regulations, which have been released ahead of this month's Tynwald sitting, says the change reflects the department no longer being responsible for service delivery. It's hoped the changes will mean the committee is able to focus more on the delivery of frontline services, strengthen oversight and drive change in health and social care on the island. The changes also include reducing the maximum tenure a member can serve on the committee from 9 years to 6 and giving the Department of Health and Social Care the power to suspend or remove a member in certain circumstances.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
Well, a year after putting Loganair up for sale, Stephen and Peter Bond, who've owned the Scottish airline for 25 years, have decided to take the carrier off the market. The brothers had initially looked to find a new custodian for the airline, but have instead decided to stay involved for now amid a fleet renewal programme. It's almost a year ago to this day when they first announced their intentions to sell. At the time of that announcement, the carrier was performing well, having doubled its year-on-year revenue as it looked to recover from the pandemic. Some good news from Simcox Advocates this week. The firm has again earned top-tier status by the independent directory, the Legal 500, in its 2024 rankings. Feedback from the research is conducted in over 100 jurisdictions. And further afield, shares in Aviva, the UK's biggest insurer, have jumped almost 10% after reports it could be the target of a takeover by a foreign buyer. For a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookall.com.
The Stock Market Report. Brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
Well, the numbers now from Ramsey Crookall. At the close in London, the FTSE 100 closed up 0.58% at 7,494. The DAX in Frankfurt up 1.03% at 15,226. A short time ago, the Dow Jones was up 0.55% at 33,301, and the Nasdaq was up 0.68% at 13,309. The S&P 500 up 0.5% at 13,309. And in commodities, gold up 0.76% at $1,833, and Brent up 0.26% at $84.43.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future. For a house, or the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Isle of Man Water Sports. Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Well, Saturday will be dry and rather cloudy, although some bright or hazy sunny spells may break through at times. Fine and dry on Sunday, warm, hazy sunshine and the risk of some coastal mist just for southern coasts later on. The sea temperature, if you fancy a dip, 15 Celsius. The wind on Saturday, southwest 4, occasionally 6. The wave height 1.5 to 2 metres, becoming 1 metre to 1.5. The wave period 4 seconds, and high tide 5:41 a.m. and then 6:25 p.m. On Sunday, the wind will be south or southeast 4 or 5, veering south or southwest 3 or 4. The wave height 0.8 to 1.2 metres, the wave period 3 seconds, and high tide on Sunday 7:21 a.m. and then again at 1 minute past 8 in the evening.
Manx Glass and Glazing are able to offer an emergency out-of-hours boarding up service. Call 491918.
This is Update. It is now 5:46. A new charity that will focus on suicide prevention is launching this evening. I'll Stand Up to Suicide will provide support to anyone who finds themselves in crisis. Manx Radio has been talking to the founder, Paula Dunlop, and committee member, Ollie.
One, suicide is a concern, but I think what we've noticed, and particularly looking at the strategy, that the worrying thing was during the pandemic, well, in 2020, the numbers had surpassed any of the other jurisdictions. And the average, and we'd been quite stable up to about 2019, and we're averaging about 10 people per 100,000. So we're actually doubled. So I'm not sure about the figures at the moment. I guess that's a little bit of speculation and guesswork because we never will get the final numbers until the following year. I have been a great supporter of Stamp Out Suicide, which is another charity in the UK, and I had a conversation with the founder and I asked lots of questions about how he set it up, and I really wanted to replicate that on the island. And I asked him, is it possible? He said, sure, it's possible. And from there I felt, yeah, with his support, maybe, I could get this going on the island. I've been working in mental health services on the island for over 20 years. I've noticed particularly in the last 5 years that there has been an increase in people approaching services for help with suicidal thoughts. We've also had an increase in people taking their own lives. So I felt it was really important that we have another service to complement some of the services that are already existing. So we're not competing, we want to complement those services in place.
We'll be having a free telephone helpline for people to be able to contact, and we're looking to operate that between 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. daily. When it may be appropriate, people can receive some short-term telephone counselling. And then the third stream is we're also looking to provide QPR training.
Manx Radio Sport.
And this evening, Fastamai, Dave Moore.
Fastamai. The Isle of Man under-21 netball team's off to a winning start in their opening fixture of the Europe Netball Challenge. They beat Switzerland 57-28 earlier this afternoon in Sheffield. Speaking after the match on Europe Netball's YouTube channel, Coach Ashley Hall says she's pleased with the performance.
Every combination that I put on, I believe in. It was a test for us. It went well for us in the first half. It afforded me the chance to look at other things. So we learnt some things, yeah.
Their next game is tomorrow afternoon when they take on Gibraltar, and then they play the Republic of Ireland on Sunday. FC Isle of Man's away game against AFC Liverpool on September 23rd has been declared as a draw. The score between the two sides was 4-4 when the match was abandoned on 72 minutes due to an injury to the home team's goalkeeper. Both clubs requested the result stud, which has now been agreed by the North West Counties Football League. Meanwhile, FC Isle of Man's game away to Burscough tomorrow will now kick off at 3:30, half an hour later than originally scheduled. This is due to a change in travel arrangements. In rugby, Vagabond's 2 senior sides are in action tomorrow. The men host Cole and Nelson in the Counties 4 ADM Lancashire Cheshire League, with the 2 teams 2nd and 3rd in the table respectively. The women are on the road when they travel to Didsbury for their NC1 North West Division fixture. Also off island are Ramsey, who take on Marple in the Cheshire Plate, while PDMS Southern Nomads visit New Brighton in the Cheshire Bowl. There's more Isle of Man representation this weekend in England, with Turkeyland's MX taking 40 of the best local motocross riders to compete in the Northern Challenge. The event takes place near Sherwood Forest in Nottinghamshire. The course is 1.5 miles in length, with the island taking part in all age groups from 6 years old in the automatic 2-stroke class through to competitors in their mid-50s in the 450cc 4-strokes.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Well, just so you know, everything looks okay down at the airport this evening, which is good news. The main things to look out for on the roads: in Douglas, temporary lights on Glen Crutchley Road. That's at the roundabout with Victoria Road for resurfacing. Also temporary lights on Upper Dukes Road, 24 hours a day. Also the new Castletown Road, getting used to that one now, closed between the Spring Valley roundabout and the bottom of Richmond Hill for resurfacing. So the junction at the bottom of Richmond Hill is open, traffic being diverted along the energy from waste plant there. Colby, temporary lights at the bottom of Glen Road, 24 hours a day. They hopefully might be finished a little bit later. And in Port St Mary, temporary lights at the junction of Queen's Road and Park Road, and that is for gas main work until the 3rd of November. For more information on these works that we've mentioned, go to manxradio.com, just click on news and then click on travel.
H&Hmotorcycles.im for all your motorcycle requirements. Southgate Industrial Estate, opposite Quayside Tyres. Call 665646.
It is 5:51. A move to bring the Isle of Man in line with the UK's shingles vaccination policy is being considered. Now, this would mean lowering the age of those eligible for free vaccines from 70 to 65. Simon Richardson reports.
About 1 in 5 people who've had chickenpox will develop shingles. It can occur at any time, although the risk, severity and complications from the condition all increase with age. Each year, about 14,000 people in England and Wales go on to develop post-herpetic neuralgia, or PHN, after shingles, and over 1,400 are admitted to hospital because of PHN. Most people recover fully after a few weeks, but for some the pain goes on for several months or even years. PHN is a particularly unpleasant condition with severe burning, throbbing or stabbing nerve pain. The older you are, the more likely you are to have long-lasting pain. The shingles vaccine reduces the risk of getting shingles and PHN. A single vaccine costs the NHS around £170, though this has to be balanced against having to treat severe cases of shingles and PHN.
Simon Richardson. Police cadets from the Isle of Man are taking on a 24-hour challenge at the NSC this weekend to raise money for charity. They're starting at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Grace and Laura are 2 of them who are taking part.
We all gathered together and we decided that victim support was going to be our charity that we're going to be fundraising for. Yeah, we're all working as a team. We have like little shifts of when we're going to be running. So it's divided for everyone and it's fair as well. We are hoping on the day when we actually do the walk, people will come down to support us as well. Like they can just even come down for even a lap around the NSC. It would be really nice to see everyone there and they can just pitch in to help support the charity that we are supporting at the moment. It also helps possibly show that there are charities that maybe aren't as well known as other charities that need to be more known because of certain causes. So it's good to get their name out as well and get a boost for them, not just us as well. We do many other things in the cadets as well, but doing activities like these I think really helps everyone in general.
It's not our first fundraiser. We've done a cake sale before and we got out in Douglas and shown our faces, but I think this is going to be a lot more longer as well. Please come down.
Yeah.
Do feel laps with us because we really do need the support.
Maybe on Sunday we might need a little bit of help because by that point we would have done at least 20 hours of just straight up walking around the track. Possibly a little bit of help would be appreciated on that side, but anyone can literally come down at any time because it is a 24-hour fundraising event. So even if you come down really early in the morning, we'll be there so you can run with us.
Oh, good luck to all of them taking part. Now, finally, libraries are a vital service for children on the Isle of Man. That's according to Henry Bloom Noble librarian Jan McCartney. We'll hear from her in just a moment. But first, the Waterstones Children's Laureate Joseph Kaleo agrees.
Reading is a wonderful thing to do. We know time and time again from various studies that it helps with lifelong opportunities, as well as it just being fun. It broadens horizons. You know, you can lose yourself in a book, but you can also find out about the world on your doorstep and beyond. So I think it's vital that we encourage children to read and to become lifelong readers and learners. Libraries are the hubs of communities, cross-generational. So I think it's vital that kids become familiar and comfortable with libraries as early as possible. That's key, because if a child feels comfortable in a library space, it means they feel comfortable to go there and ask for help should they need it.
It's a community space where, a lot of people come to actually borrow books, but some people just come to sit and enjoy, relax, and that's absolutely fine. It's probably one of the only public places that you can just walk in at 8:30 in the morning, leave at 5 o'clock, nobody ever asks you why. It's here for everyone in the community. They're vital. They're a place, obviously, to access books and literature, and the sooner children are introduced to books, the better. The more successful they're going to be. That there's lots of research that says that if children are regular library members, their academic success is higher than those children that don't. We have got board books for babies, we've got picture books for younger children, then we've got this fantastic diverse range of fiction and non-fiction. Will help educational needs.
That is Jan McCartney from Douglas Library. Who doesn't love their local library, eh? Thank you so much for your company. That's all from Update this evening. Thank you to Manx Radio's news team and the newsreader Christian Jones. This programme will soon be available as a free podcast. Coming up after the news, it's the Friday Sport Preview with Dave Moore, followed by Greatest Hits with Chris Kinley. Whatever you're doing, have a lovely evening and a great weekend, and I'll talk to you again soon.